Hello, everyone. Welcome to or welcome back to Their Journey, a sit down with the National Digest. I'm your host, Eric Mastrota, and today we're once again speaking with Dr. Janet Smith Warfield about what it means to create and live in a world of planetary peace, power, and prosperity. If you haven't already, I urge you to check out our previous episodes with Dr. Warfield before embarking on this one, as today we'll be expanding even further on our previous discussions together. Hello, Dr. Warfield. Welcome back. It's nice to see you again.
Well, good morning, Eric. How are you?
I'm well. I thought to get us started today, I want to go back a little because in one of our first conversations together, we talked a little bit about the experience of walking through a labyrinth before, and you've also used the metaphor of a labyrinth to describe the human journey in general. So, how would you say you can help individuals find meaning and healing in the twists and turns of their own labyrinth's path?
Of course, it is each person's own labyrinth path. Um, all right, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. And just so you know, I've been looking back through some of my own files this morning and finding more and more depth to
Right.
this project, as well as more and more photos of times where I've been involved in different sorts of labyrinths in different places throughout the planet. But let me just go back with a little bit of history to start with. Um, Labyrinths, this is another archetypal pattern. We've been talking about these archetypal patterns that keep repeating over and over again. And it's found throughout history,
Mm,
beginning as early as 430 BC
mm,
in Greece, and later emerging in Egypt, Italy, Native American culture, and India, and also in the United States today. If you look for them, you will find smaller labyrinths all over the place in the United States. And I have walked several of them as well. The one I am personally most familiar with is the labyrinth in Chartres Cathedral in France, which is the original labyrinth. But what I read says it thinks of them as a form of pilgrimage, and they are. Um, I think that's a good term to use. But their significance differs from culture to culture. The Grecian labyrinths were believed to house the Minotaur, a mythical creature that was half man and half bull. Interesting analogy there.
mm.
And then other cultures associated the labyrinth with death and a triumphant return. And to me, that has more meaning than the half man, half bull. And the word labyrinth is derived from the Lydian word labrys, Labrys, which means double-edged axe.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting? What are you going to do with a double-edged axe as you walk through a labyrinth? So I like to think of today's labyrinths as offering opportunities for walking meditations
Mm.
for each individual who walks the labyrinth. And I don't know whether I can share my screen here or not. We can try if you want. Um, I've got a diagram of the Chartres, France Cathedral labyrinth, which I believe is supposed to be one of the original uh, basic labyrinths. Do you want to try it, or do you not want to try that?
We can if you want. We could also probably link an image to it as well in the description here. Either or, whatever would be.
Well, let me see if I can pull it up. The systems don't always make it easy, but let me see if I can maybe do that. And if I can, you can share it. Let me see. Let's see. Um, Now I have to, I have it up in front of me. Now it's just an issue of getting it over to you, if I can do that. Let's see. Oh, I need to request sharing.
There we
So
go.
you have to give me permission to share.
Oh,
Or do you want to not want to have to figure that out right now? I can just email it to you if you want,
yeah,
and then you put it up
definitely.
some other way. All right, let's do it that way. But anyway, my own experience with walking labyrinths, as I say, the primary labyrinth I personally have walked is in Chartres Cathedral in France, and I've done that 3 times.
Oh.
It's a huge labyrinth, and it's right inside the cathedral.
Hmm.
There's a special space for the labyrinth. And if you're not familiar with labyrinths, I would strongly suggest you go look at a diagram someplace or a video so you can understand what I'm talking about here. And there are many, many, many ways of walking a labyrinth or doing this. But as I say, the Chartres, France Cathedral is the one I am most familiar with. So I will talk about that one. Um, and as I said before, I think of it as a walking meditation. This is the inner work, not the big macrocosm of planetary peace, power, and prosperity. This is the inner work of answering the question, who am I? That's the walk in. This is the way I think of it. And then once you get into the center of the labyrinth, and there's a place where you can usually sit and just absorb the experience of walking in and answering the question, who am I
Hmm.
and how have I been called to serve? Then when you're walking out, you're thinking about, all right, now I know who I am and I know what I am here to do. And you start meditating on that as you walk out. Now, labyrinths, they twist and turn all over the place. You mentioned the words twist and turn.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's very interesting when you're walking one. Um, yeah, and the walk in again, another thing I think that is about is what are my unique gifts or what are your unique gifts and talents, because each one of us is unique. So we're down at a very microcosmic level,
Yeah.
I think, with the walk in. Um, and you can think of the center of the labyrinth just as you can think of that timeless, spaceless point in our logo almost.
Right.
It's finding your way to the back as back to that timeless, spaceless point of pure present moment awareness,
Hmm.
where you're totally free and you can choose to go out in any direction from that center point, along any of those lines, depending on context. So you can think of it as that center point or that center of the labyrinth, once you get there, as being the core of who you are,
Hmm.
you, the unique individual on this planet. Uh, and as you're meditating going in, you're getting clearer and clearer and clearer on who you are, what your skills are, what your unique purpose is on this planet, and mostly who are you right here, right now. And then as you walk out of the labyrinth, the questions change. Well, isn't that interesting? you're asking different questions as you're walking out from the questions that you ask when you walk in. So it's again, how can I serve? I know who I am. I know what my skills are. I know what my talents are. Now, how can I serve and who can I serve? Who wants and needs these particular skills that only I have? Um, and it's a giving back to the planet of what has been so freely given to me, you,
Mhm.
whoever we're talking about here. So, how can we allow the gift we have been given then, as this is as we're walking out, to flow? Note that word flow, it's really important. Flow through us and back out into the world. We're not doing any of this forcing or fighting or ramming.
Right.
We're connecting with something.
Mm.
We could talk about that later. It's sometimes called the eternal Tao or the word or logos. We're connecting with something that we really can't put into words, but you can experience that energy or flow or spirit coming into your body and then manifesting out into the world as appropriate within context. It's always within context because we live in a dynamic world, even though it often doesn't feel like it, or sometimes it does. Sometimes it just feels like chaos. So we mentioned before the paths, the the Chartres Cathedral. You walk in at one point, and then you think you're going right to the center, but it doesn't work that way
Mm.
because suddenly you twist, and there's only one way to go on this labyrinth. So you follow the path you've been given to follow it, but you're thinking while you're doing this and you're observing. So you walk in and then you think you're going to go right to that center point, but you don't. You do take a U-turn and you
Mm.
go way down here and then back up around and you're kind of circling it and then you go, back down again. And all the time your mind is going and you're watching your mind, you're meditating. Um, and it's also interesting because you're not doing this alone. When we walked the Chartres Labyrinth, and as I say, I've done this 3 times, 3 different years, I was always walking with other people. In fact, I think every time I've walked a labyrinth, there've always been other people walking in at the same time. The way they structured our walk, they had somebody at the entrance who told us when we could start. And they tried to pace us about 6 feet apart, I think,
Mm.
so that there was space to think, to walk, to pay attention to when you had to twist and turn and all that stuff. Um, and as I said, the you think you know where you're going, and suddenly the path takes you in a different place. And you think you're going to hit the center, and suddenly you're on the outer edge of the circle, far, far from where you expected to be.
Mm.
That's when something that you haven't noticed or seen, a 2x4 hits you on the back of the head when you're looking forward or something like that.
Mm.
And whoa, I better wake up and pay attention. So sometimes you're walking next to another spiritual seeker. These are all metaphors too for a life path. I mean, I find this kind of dynamic repeating over and over again in my life. Sometimes you're very aligned with another person. You're just walking side by side. If you wanted to, your paths are next to each other the way you're going, and you're very aligned. And if you wanted to, you could have a communication right across that line. Except you're not. And this is done silently, but you're observing. Oh yeah, I may be really closely aligned with this person. Here we go.
Mm.
And then suddenly the paths go like this.
Mm.
I don't know whether you've had that happen in your life, but I've had it happen in my life over and over and over again, where someone with whom I was working very closely in a particular context, and then suddenly there's this separation and distancing, and
Yeah.
just, I don't like what you're doing, or I need to go in this direction, but you separate. You may come back together again later on, but it's different when you do. And, then there's another dynamic that sometimes goes on in a labyrinth, which is, um, you're walking right next to one person and then you split. And then the next time you meet that same person, but you're going in opposite directions. So you're passing one another. Maybe you nod to the other person, and each one of you moves on along your own spiritual path that
Mm.
has been given to you to follow, whether you like it or don't like it.
Mhm.
It's your path.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a fascinating experience. And for me, it's been every time I've done it, and it's been different every time because I've been different people walking in there whom I know in different contexts in my own life. But I can also give our listeners or our viewers a couple of websites where they can get more information about labyrinths. Of course, you can just do a chat GPT search probably too, but there is the labyrinthsociety.org,
Mm.
and there's also a labyrinthlocator.com. Uh, Places where I'm pretty sure there are labyrinths. I'm just trying to go. The the Oracle Institute in Virginia, in Independence, Virginia, has a small labyrinth there. There's one out in Petaluma, California, which I have walked.
Wow.
And there are other ones that I've walked as well, but right now I can't remember where they are. As you can see, they're all over the world.
Yeah.
They're all over the world. So all you have to do is look for them, find them. And if you want to walk one, if you can do it with someone else, but it's a very, very interesting experience. So I don't know, unless you have any other questions, Eric, we
Mhm.
can move on.
Yeah, yeah. We're talking about a lot of really deeply impactful things too. And throughout our conversations, we've worked to kind of define impact more so as cultivating awareness and choice rather than delivering just a measurable output. So, from your perspective, how can we communicate the value of this approach to impact to those who prioritize more traditional metrics of success?
When they're ready. But I think both ways of proceeding matter.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say we're only doing cultivating awareness and choice with the foundation. That is the at the microcosmic level, the individual level. That is your path or my path. And it's very important to start watching your own mind, watching your own actions, watching your own speech. And this is, of course, goes back to the Buddhist Eightfold Path. If you want to explore that more,
Right.
these are, and right perception too is another one of the beginning ones, uh, which I have been paying more attention to than the final four. But so I think the cultivating awareness and choice is vital for each individual to answer the question, who am I? What are my skills and talents? And how can I serve right here, right now? Maybe you can't for various reasons, but lots of times you can, and you can do it easily. Um, the measuring results. I measure results all the time. I can't tell you how many Excel spreadsheets I've got to show, well, even measuring the results of our conversations here.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they're going up every single day. Oh, that's interesting. Wonder who's watching. And all we can get are the number of YouTube views. I mean, I have no idea how many people are listening maybe on Spotify or iHeartRadio or Spreaker or the other live streams that are out there, because that information is not available to me, at least it's probably available to somebody. Um, yeah, and measuring results. I do it
Yeah.
because I want to see, whether what I'm doing is having the kind of effect I want it to have. That's all about setting intentions. I mean, what is your intention? If your intention is to serve both yourself and others and the planet and have the whole thing to connect together in a kind of Indra's web, then you really have to be paying attention all the time, and you have to be measuring. I mean, measuring is part of the analytics
Mm,
that help you see, okay, is what I'm doing impactful or not? Am I helping other people or not? Am I serving other people or am I traumatizing them? A
mm,
lot depends on who you're talking to. But let me just mention one more thing. For example, um, our foundation has a Facebook business page. I didn't write it down, but I think it's PPPP co-creators, if anybody's interested in looking at it. That has amplified, and boy, do I watch this and measure it
mm.
from fewer than 100 followers 2 years ago. This morning, when I checked, it was up to 25,151 followers
Wow.
in about 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not doing this because I don't know how to do it, but I'm working with somebody who does,
Mm,
and they're very good at what they do. So it's, finding the right people.
mm,
And then, yes, you do measure, you do look to see whether what you're doing is having an impact or not. And if it's not, maybe you want to rethink what you're doing
mm.
and change some of your actions. And I don't know whether I mentioned right action is another one of the Buddhist take-home paths.
Right.
So I don't know that I have anything else to say about that unless you have some more questions,
Yeah.
Eric.
Yeah, let's I would love to get into a viewer question we have from Veronica from Colorado. It seems like she's embarking on her own journey. She asks, as a healer and leader, how do you and how have you balanced your ongoing healing journey with the responsibility of guiding others? What practices keep you grounded and replenished as you hold space for transformation?
Well, let me start out by saying I don't view myself as a healer and leader, but I know a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
So there's a discrepancy here between the way I experience myself and the way other people see me, which is fine.
Yeah.
See me the way you want to see me.
Right.
I hope I'm serving you in some way or guiding you in some way, but it's not the way my mind is going. Um, yeah, something I say or do sometimes offers somebody else a new perspective. It's not that I'm trying to do that. I am just being who I am. And because my path has been different from other people's paths, um, I may be aware of some things that they're not aware of, or I may have learned some things along my own life path that other people haven't learned. And but I'm also learning from them at the same time. I
Mm.
am just fascinated with other people who are different from me. And I'm thinking, what do they know that I don't know? What do I still have to learn? I think I know
Yeah.
everything, but I don't.
Yeah.
And we end up from my perspective, in this kind of dance of consciousness of sharing information about our own journeys. And yeah, there are parallels, there are archetypal patterns, but here you go again with this dynamic dance, which if you stop it, it's the Christian symbol for prayer, Buddhist symbol for namaste. I know I've done that lots of times here. Um, keep coming back to that, keep coming back to the logo, which is, I think, it's a symbol for the path. There are many symbols out there, many practices for your journey,
Mm.
which I think is that's the website, isn't it? Or
Mhm.
is it their journey?
Their journey, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the correction. You see, that's what we do for one another too.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
when one of us gets it wrong, the other one says, "Well, didn't you mean this?" And yeah, oh yeah, you're right. Then we come back together, more in this maybe at that point where we agree. Um, yeah, but getting on to the question of what practices keep me grounded
Mm.
and replenished, and I really like that phrase, as you hold space for transformation, because lots of times it feels to me as if that's what I'm doing. I'm holding space.
Mm.
Um, this is really hard to talk about, but I go back to the center point of the logo behind me, or that quote, timeless, spaceless point of pure present moment awareness. So I'm centered, I'm aware, I'm paying attention, but I don't necessarily have to say anything or do anything unless I see, from my perspective, a human dynamic getting way out of balance and getting into this or this dynamic. And then I may choose to show up and get involved. I think I told the stories here, but I don't remember for sure. You probably can correct me if I'm wrong. Of the three initial transformational experiences I had when I was around age 30 with my kids and
Yeah.
the kids' backyard. Yeah. So I won't repeat them here. I don't remember which podcast they were in, but they were just amazing and eye-opening. And it was just as if, oh my gosh, this is so easy when you know what to do. And it's not what you've been taught.
Mm.
You're kind of going outside the bounds of all the cultural conditioning that you've had during your life, and you're trying something new because somebody else was doing it and it looked as if it might work when you were really frustrated following the traditional
Mm.
rules. Um, so let's see, practices. All right. Again, it's the same stuff that I've said before. Keep yourself centered right here, right now, in
Mhm.
that center point of awareness. Stay in personal integrity. You do not take action that's going to throw you out of in personal integrity. It's going to make you, if you don't lie and steal and you basically are accountable, um, you're not going to let somebody else tell you you've got to stop doing that. You've got to do it my way.
Yeah.
You've got to. So you hold that centeredness and that awareness. And when you're connected with, again, these are hard things to talk about, but when you can feel a flow or a connection with an energy or a spirit or God or Allah or universal energy or whatever name you want to give you, it's an experience.
Mm.
And you just know it's there. It shifts something within you. You can feel the shift within you. And then it's as if you're not doing the guidance, you're allowing something else to flow through you and
Mm.
give you direction. It's very difficult to talk about. So another one of my own values or practices is to be accountable. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Maybe not perfectly because I'm not omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. I'm a human being in a human physical body, which someday is going to die and um, take its last breath. But be accountable to the extent that I am able. And a lot depends on what's going on inside of me in a particular moment in time. uh, be accountable, but both to myself and others. And that sometimes really gets challenging because I have to be accountable to myself first. That's the integrity piece. And sometimes that puts me in a morally challenging position because I can't do both all the time. Lots of times I can't both be accountable to myself and to other people who are around me. And I've been through, I don't know what I think we've discussed training a little bit maybe previously.
Yeah, I think we touched on it.
Yeah, I don't remember whether I told the story about that, but I know one of the things that I have had to learn to do is to set boundaries
Right.
via over which I will not step. Because if I step over them, it's going to put me out of integrity.
Mm.
You may want me to do something, but it's not part of my own life path. And when I'm tired, I lie down and rest. And when I can serve another person with ease and grace, in other words, it's not a big deal for me to go get somebody a glass of water, for example, if they are struggling with walking, something like that. Um, and when I need something, I ask for it.
Mm.
I put it out there, but not just to anyone. I ask the people whom I think may be able to support me without stress or strain in there. Um, and then there's so many practices out there. You'll be inundated with them if you start exploring them. But practice that I never tried before. And oh, that sounds interesting. Let's try that and see how I interact with that practice and whether or not it supports me on my path or not. But they're fun and interesting. Um, I don't know whether I've told my Sanskrit mantra story here or not, but there's a Sanskrit mantra. Um, I don't even remember how I found it, but it just sort of came into my life, and I see the systems moving around on the screen again. I'm not doing that. Um, I'm just going to touch on it here, but it's Om Shreem Kleem Lakshmi Namaha. The brief version is just, I think, Shreem or Lakshmi. Lakshmi is the goddess of abundance. So
Mm.
if I want to bring abundance into my life, I keep saying that or singing that mantra over and over and over again. And I've got a story about that. It's amazing. It's kind of, oh my gosh, this must really be working. Meditation, we've already talked about, certainly in the context of the labyrinth, but there are lots of other ways you can meditate. You can just go out in nature, and it's often a very meditative experience if you allow it to be, if you just observe the tree branches blowing in the wind, or birds chirping in the trees, or little squirrels or rabbits running around, the flowers or whatever. It can be a very soothing experience.
Mm.
Tai Chi is something I took for about 3 years. It's kind of on the outside of the martial arts, but it is not kung fu fighting or anything like that. Tai Chi has to do with, again, balance,
Mm.
holding your balance, but this is physical balance. And they teach you all kinds of sitting and standing skills. And right now, I think it helps keep me from falling because I'm up in years and I don't want to fall. That's for sure, because I just had a cousin who fell and fractured her whole leg, and she's been in rehab for 6 months, 6 weeks or so. So I don't want to do that. Um, Another thing that I think is really fun, and particularly if you do it in a group, you can do it by yourself too if you want. But go pull up some optical illusions and just notice depending on what you see in the optical illusion, notice how it impacts your emotions.
Mm.
And there's one I'll mention in particular. It's one by John Langdon, who's a friend of mine, taught at, I think it was Drexel Institute of Technology when I met him. But he's got one that he calls love. But the image doesn't change.
Mm.
All it has in it are pink and black lines. But depending on where you're focused, and maybe where your own mind is focused, you will either see the word love or you will see the word hate.
Mm.
Now, depending on what you see, just notice the impact on your own state of being. If you see the word love, you usually feel secure, safe, creative, functional, held, buoyant. You know, all those positive words. If you see the word hate, um, it's usually, I don't feel safe, who's going to hurt me? What do I have to protect myself from? It's a totally different dynamic.
Mm.
And nothing in the image changes. All that changes is your mind or your perception. I think John Langdon's website is johnlangdon.net. If anybody wants to check him out, he's got some fascinating stuff up there. Uh, and you see, all these practices open my own mind to new possibilities. Sometimes just a little bit, maybe, oh, that's interesting. But sometimes it's like, oh my God, like that optical illusion, the ones that John Langdon does. Some of them. There's another guy. He's there's somebody who has a good evil optical illusion. Same idea. And I'm sorry, I don't have in my head right now the names of people who created these, but there are lots of them out there to play with and just notice the way what your mind sees in a single image
Mm.
is how you're impacting your own emotional state, your own state of consciousness every single moment of every single day. And just one other thing here on practices. I have a little organic garden plot. It's a community garden plot locally. It's about a mile and a half away from where I live. And it's not big, but it's all organic gardening. And when I've been an organic gardener for probably 65 years at least forever. And when I began shoveling out the manure in chicken coops in Vineland, New Jersey, and had my own actually large garden there and grew most of our food there. But it can be such an immersive experience. If it's something you want to do, maybe gardening doesn't appeal to you,
Mm.
but for me, it's a feeling of beauty and wonder. And as I say, total absorption and integration when I am planting seeds that are then going to grow and provide healthy food for my family to eat.
Mm.
And it's an experience. I call it an experience of oneness. Again, it's staying centered, very immersed, and very aware in whatever you're doing right here, right now, instead of being traumatized by it. I hope that helps a little bit. I don't know. All
Definitely.
right. Wait a minute. Oops. Okay. I I've got my cheat sheet in front of me. Um, so yeah, I think I think we can move on to the
Yeah.
next question,
Definitely.
unless you have anything else you want to ask about that.
No, definitely. I definitely want to go back to touch a little more about the whole idea of this duality that exists within language and how can we kind of reconcile the dual nature of language that me and you have been talking about as language being both a tool for connection and also a source for fragmentation. And do you think language can ever fully capture the wholeness of the human experience, or is it just inherently bound to create division in general through categorization and judgment, all those things?
Well, I don't think it has to create division because it can be a tool for shifting into this kind of a dynamic.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, to your question, can language ever fully capture the wholeness of human experience? My short answer would be no.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know whether we've talked about the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. That's from the I Ching.
I don't think so,
We
actually.
haven't talked about that. Oh, all right. And, yeah, there's a set of practices. I think it was Lao Tzu who created these. And then I am told that he disappeared from the face of the earth after he created the structure
Mm.
about the I Ching. And I know Dr. Wayne Dyer, before he died, he has a whole book about um, it's based on the I Ching, but it's about change your change your thoughts, change your life.
Mm.
And it's interesting because I actually spent some time with Dr. Wayne Dyer. I have someplace I have a photo of the two of us with our two books, me with Shift, Change Your Words, Change Your World, and Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer with um, change your what did I just say? Change your focus, change your life, or I can't. I don't have it in front of me right now, so I may not have it absolutely correct. But they were very analogous titles.
Mm.
And he was very ill with cancer at the time, and he was traveling, I believe, to Brazil or Argentina, someplace in South America, to work with a shaman down there to hopefully heal. But I believe he's now deceased. Um, but you see, language can be a powerful tool because once you understand that our words are placeholders
Mm.
for something that's shifting and dynamic, they stop the motion because our little left brains want something solid to focus on. Uh, so we actually create a subject to object duality when we're looking out there for answers instead of, and I don't even want to use the words looking for answers in here, but there's a sense in which sometimes we feel we're in total chaos and confusion and oh my God, how do I get out of here? I'm lost. I don't know which way to turn. Everything I've been taught is not working. What am I going to do? Um, so language can be a tool. Words are fingers pointing at the moon. They're not the same as I think I've said this before. Maybe even shown a picture of a beautiful full moon rising
Mm.
over the horizon in Boulder, Colorado. And I don't remember when I was there, but the experience is so immersive that you're not even thinking, putting words on it. Maybe you want to take a photo of it. But it's just, oh my gosh, I have never seen a moon that large
Mm.
rising over the horizon. I've got to capture this. I've got to save it somehow.
Yeah.
Um, See, so if you're using your words consciously and with intention and care, and also observing the impact they're having on other people, you can shift and change them all the time. Um, there's certain forms of language. I don't know whether anybody's noticed this or not, but they're what I generally use. I almost never do didactic teaching
Mm.
because, which is the top down. This is the way you do it. This
Right.
is the structure. Unless I am talking about words. Now, I just did didactic teaching this past Sunday at the local Unitarian Universalist Church here in Sarasota,
Mm.
where I did a whole pile of PowerPoint slides on nothing but words with a touch of the logos, which is the word, or that is another long history behind that, which I don't have time to go into here, but that is something that's similar to this concept of the Tao.
Mm.
And it's a connective something bigger than our minds can ever um, create or frame or talk about. But it's a structure. And again, this concept of logos or the word has been there for, I think, about 2,500 years now in different societies, different um, places throughout the world. The same concept. And if you look, I think it's in John chapter 1, verse 1 in the New Testament. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, or the Word was God, and the Word was with God. And
Mm.
then it's the same idea of this eternal Tao, Tao, it's spelled, or Logos. They're
Mm.
just different names for something that you really can't put into words. And the kinds of language I like to use, and I think of it more as an art, a creative art
Mm.
than a science, but it can be measured. The impact of it can be measured. Um, I tend to tell stories. I ask questions for clarification because I want to understand. And I've been doing that throughout these questions you're asking me because some of them are not clear to me in terms of what the person is looking for. I think it was Edward from Washington.
Mm.
And if you recall that podcast, he's asking me
Mm.
this very generalized question. I'm thinking, Edward, I need to know a lot more about you before I can answer
Right.
that question. So anyway, I use stories and questions. Sometimes I write poetry. I wrote poetry for 3 years, I think. And right now it's interesting because I'm having a conversation with someone else, uh, with a woman who wants to position my second Amazon best-selling book, which got banned by KDP, Amazon KDP, position it where people who really want that information can find it.
Mm.
So yeah, but there's a poem I wrote years ago, which I think is in my book Shift, um, which I then found by doing a chat GPT search. I found part of the poem, but it was about Sisyphus, who, if you recall, Sisyphus was I guess maybe he was a Greek climber who was trying to get to the top of a hill or push a boulder up to the top of a hill, and it kept rolling back down. He couldn't get it up to the top of the hill. And this woman is connected somehow with Sisyphus, which is why I sent it to her.
Mm.
And she was quite interested to see that poem because it's not really you pushing and straining to do something.
Mm.
It's a gift that's been given to you if you are open to receiving it. Oh, and I also use a lot of metaphor and analogy. And pay attention to that word analogy because that word logos is
Mm.
embedded in there. Uh, Analogy, biology, geology,
Mm.
psychology. Look how that word logos, which is something beneath the surface that you can't really verbalize,
Yeah.
is running the show. And our left brains can't figure it out. It's running us, I think, instead of us running it.
Mm.
So anything else you want to talk about there, or that it was, I'm sorry, I was Oh no, that was not Veronica. That was just a general
Yeah, yeah.
generic question. All right. Just wanted to get my facts straight.
Yeah, no, I love what you're saying about all these different words and looking more inward at these words because something we haven't touched on a bunch, but if people do want to read more, our first article we did together was regarding more of the your practice of word sculptures. And the practice of word sculptures seems to parallel the alchemical process of transmutation through turning a base reaction into a conscious response. So, how can we kind of guide individuals to recognize and transform their quote unquote lead or conditioned reactions into gold, conscious choices through this practice?
Oh God. Where do I start with this one? Well, the whole phrasing of the question, I could go into any part of this and you say, okay, what do you mean by lead conditioned reactions? You're using a metaphor there.
Yeah, yeah.
And gold conscious choices through this practice. And those are words that you have created, or somebody on your team has created, or questions that you have created. Um, the implication, as I read that, is that um, it's better to have gold than lead,
Mm,
maybe. But words, let me just go back to word sculptures. That's a phrase I made up
yeah.
as I was trying to give a name to the process that I have gone through in my own life.
Mm,
Um, it seemed to best at that point in time, this was a lot of years ago, probably at least 15 years ago, but I made those words up because they seemed to, at that point in time, best epitomize the words that were pouring out of my mouth naturally without effort.
mm,
And, sometimes when I was speaking or writing, I was asking myself questions like, is this fiction or nonfiction? I don't know. I wasn't even separating it or categorizing. It was just going out
mm,
there based on these amazing, quote, mystical experiences. I didn't even know what they were when they happened. I looked it up afterwards and figured, oh, that must be what it was. I read William James' Varieties of Religious Experience. But then another phrase I created later was word energy alchemy.
mm.
I don't really recall whether we've discussed that set of words or not. But our words, when we were talking about the optical illusions, for example, and the one called love or good evil, nothing changes out there. It's what your mind's doing with it. And then the emotional impact it
Mm.
has on yourself. But your words can also have an emotional impact on other people. And it's not always in the way you intend. Um, and you don't know until you put them out there and then you observe and
Yeah,
you see, is the person going, oh,
yeah.
stay away from me, you're dangerous. Or are they saying, oh, thank you, tell me more, I'm really interested in that. You don't
Mm,
know. And you respect whatever comes up.
yeah.
Um, the word alchemy, the meaning of that word is transformation or transcendence. It's moving above
Mm,
this dynamic or this dynamic into this dynamic, or you can stop it if you want. You use more static symbols, but it's constantly changing and constantly moving. We talked about a cosmic dance, I think, a couple of times. Um, and again, I'm saying here, I don't think of myself as guiding anyone. I simply am who I am
yeah.
right here, right now. But I do know that who I am impacts other people because I've observed that. And I never know whether it's how it's going to impact other people because I don't know where their minds are.
Mm.
Uh, but the other thing I finally realized is that how others react or respond to who I am is not my issue. That is their issue.
Mm.
And being when I just am who I am and allow others to be who they are right here, right now. We are dancing this cosmic dance all the time.
Yeah.
And or playing a cosmic game. You can think of it that way too, as well. And I mentioned before, the question that you ask creates a subject object duality. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It can be useful,
Mm.
but it depends on whether you want to experience this flow and be in this flow, or
Mm.
whether you want to look out there and analyze it with your left brain. Maybe it's a left brain, right brain distinction there. And if you want to stay in this flow as well as you're able, you can't always do it. Um, you can go back to those or get yourself back into a flow if you're suddenly thrown into chaos and things aren't working out the way somebody told you they would. Go back to those six basic questions I've mentioned before. And this is first person singular. This is the self exploration, getting yourself out of chaos. What do I think right here, right now? What do I feel right here, right now? What do I need right here, right now? What are my choices? Some people don't even know they have a choice. I think that seemed obvious in the question that Edward was asking in one of our earlier
Mm.
podcasts. Um, and then what do I need to know? And whom can I trust? Which is another very important question because there's some people who are working from what they've been conditioned to think by somebody else.
Mm.
And you probably cannot trust them. You can trust the flow, and this is my experience. You can trust your own mind and your own emotions, pay attention to them, and then just observe what's going on around you. And then you choose whether to speak or not to speak, whether to take action or not take action. And that depends a lot on what's going on inside you
Yeah.
at a particular time. And this is just a story, but when I had those first three mystical experiences, I went through a whole lengthy process on this. They were just so amazing that I was driven to find ways to use words to communicate. And I tried and I tried and I couldn't do it. But I didn't even realize I was creating a subject object duality
Mm.
between me and another person when I was trying to use words to communicate, talk about my experience to another person. And I was met frequently with these blank stares.
Mm.
People are, what the heck is she doing? What is she talking about? Stay away from me, that
Mm.
kind of. But then I changed one word in my own sentence.
Mm.
I changed the word communicate to facilitate.
Mm.
And so I was shifting my own sense of beingness into serving others rather than I want you to hear what happened to me.
Mm.
I want you to listen. And while I don't always get it right and quote succeed, and it sometimes feels like mission impossible, the energetic impact of just changing that one word in that sentence was different. And it was the difference between trying to change another person by making them listen to what happened to me and the wonderful experience I had, talking about my own experience and just offering them a gift,
Mm,
which they could either accept or not, as they chose to accept it or not.
yeah, definitely.
Anything else on that one, or
Well, that's honestly great because you really we have to close off. We have another viewer submitted question, and you honestly kind of just answered it. And looking at this question, you've kind of answered it throughout our other episodes. So I hope it's from Grace from Indiana. I hope Grace you watched the previous episodes because Dr. Warfield definitely has touched on this a little bit. But she wants to know how can I work to better change my fear and rage into courage and compassion in moments of conflict.
that is such a long, complex process. It is not easy because if somebody has traumatized you or abused you, yes, you are in fear. If somebody has broken into your home and robbed you of all the things you've worked so hard to um, acquire to support your own life, and then suddenly somebody comes in and makes a mess of your home and walks off with all the stuff that you've worked so hard to create, you are afraid, and you're afraid it's going to happen again. So you build up barriers to protect yourself. And rage to me is a very interesting emotion because I'm not frequently in rage, but sometimes I am.
Right.
And I don't even, it's when I get thrown out of integrity, I think. Um, I'm thinking the first time I experienced rage, and I never did as a child because I had two loving, kind educator parents, teacher parents.
Mm,
But I was in a classroom where this is junior high school, and I was editor of the junior high school newspaper, and I was going to write an editorial about freedom of speech. My teacher, who was an old maid, I think she was deaf. She was up in years, and she had kind of a strange personality from my perspective. But heck, she was my teacher. She was my English teacher, and she was in charge of the student newspaper. She rewrote everything I had written.
mm,
It wasn't just grammatical corrections or spelling corrections. She changed the whole context of what I had written. And I rarely exploded in rage, but I did that time.
mm,
I just said, "You wrote it." And she was going to be very kind and put my name on something she had written.
mm,
And I just said, "You wrote it. You put your name on it." And I stormed out of her classroom, slammed the door, and ran down to the girls' room and locked myself in a little cubby hole. And I sobbed because it was so out of character for me. Where did this rage come from? But it was because my sense of integration and my need for integration and integrity had been violated
mm.
by someone in a position of power over me at that point in time. And it took me a long time to process that. I'd also just point out, yeah, you can set an intention. Um, I would say to be courageous and do your best to be compassionate, but it's hard if somebody has hurt you. And sometimes you have to set boundaries and you have to protect yourself.
Mm,
Um, and better even than setting an intention, well, I'm going to try to do this. You make a commitment. I am going to do this because it's much stronger. And it might also be useful to ask yourself, well, what am I afraid of? Or
mm,
what am I angry about? What's the context of all these emotions I'm feeling? And am I still in them or have I removed myself from them because I have better things to do with my life? And the final thing I'll say here is look at the vision and the mission statements on our website. Our website is planetary, well, You can see it behind you if the system doesn't keep moving you around, which it is. Planetary Peace Power, andprosperity.org. If you go into the planetary tab at the top, uh, you will see our mission statement and our vision statement. And that may help you and watch some of the videos as well that are up there, or some of the partner websites that we've got up there. And if you have time or you have the interest or the need to learn more, you go in and you watch and observe and you learn whatever is there for you to learn. I can't tell you what that is going to be.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And just to re-emphasize, we'll also make sure that we have your foundation's website linked in the description. So for anyone watching, they could just click the description and it'll be right in there as well.
All
Um,
right, thank you. I
yeah,
appreciate those cross references,
no,
Eric.
of course. Dr. Warfield, thank you so much again for taking the time to speak with me, offer your thoughts with us here at Their Journey. I really appreciate it. And for everyone at home, if you want to check out our previous episodes with Dr. Janet Smith Warfield, click the links in the description as well. Once again, I'm Eric Mastrota, and this has been Their Journey, a sit down with the National Digest. Take care, everybody.